Hi, I'm Celeste, and this is the story of how I stopped being his doormat and became my own damn rescue. It was a Saturday night, one of those damp, cloudy evenings when the world already feels a little heavier than usual. I had planned a quiet night at home, wine in hand, waiting for Ethan to get back from what he said was a guy's night. He kissed my cheek before leaving, the same way he had 1,000 times before. I remember his cologne lingered in the air, mixing with the faint scent of my lavender candles, and everything felt normal. Too normal. But normal doesn't leave you with a gut feeling that makes your chest tighten. I couldn't shake the unease gnawing at my mind. He'd been distant lately, glancing at his phone more often, turning the screen away whenever I passed by, and coming home later than usual. I didn't want to be the paranoid girlfriend, the kind who snoops or second guesses. But something felt off, and my heart knew before my brain dared to accept it. At 9:42 p.m., I got the message that broke everything. It wasn't from Ethan. It was from Harper, my best friend since college, a fiercely honest woman who never sugarcoated anything. She sent a photo. No context, just one photo. There they were, Ethan and her, some woman I'd never seen before. They were sitting at a rooftop bar downtown, tucked into a corner booth, his hand grazing hers in that familiar, intimate way I once believed was only mine. The woman's head tilted back in laughter, her body angled toward him like they were orbiting each other. And Ethan? He looked happy, relaxed, like he wasn't living a double life. Like he hadn't just told me, 2 hours ago, that he was grabbing wings and beers with the guys. I stared at the photo, hoping it was a joke or some cruel mistake. But it wasn't. The timestamp matched. The outfit matched. The betrayal? It couldn't be more clear. My body went cold, then hot, like someone had flipped a switch inside me. I didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, I felt the sharp stab of realization. Cut through me with terrifying clarity. He was cheating on me, boldly, publicly, as if I didn't exist. As if the years we spent together, the sacrifices I made for him, the plans we had, all of it meant nothing. And in that moment, I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't going to sit in the shadows and let him get away with it. Because this wasn't just betrayal. This was humiliation. This was him playing me for a fool, thinking he could lie with such ease and still come home to my arms, my loyalty, my love. I paced my apartment, heart pounding, rage curling through my veins like wildfire. I thought about the countless times I defended him when others raised their eyebrows. The times I waited up, trusted his words, ignored the red flags. No more. That night, I didn't just decide to confront him. I decided I was going to take back my dignity, my voice, and my control. If he wanted to play games, he was about to find out I was better at it than he ever imagined. I didn't know exactly what I'd do yet, but I knew it would be public. It would be undeniable, and it would be deserved. This was no longer about heartbreak. This was about justice. About making sure he felt every ounce of the pain he had caused me. And it all started with one photo, one lie, and one decision. I was going to burn his perfect little charade to the ground, and I'd do it with a smile. The morning after I got that photo, everything changed. I didn't sleep a single second that night. I laid in bed with the image of Ethan and that woman burned into the back of my eyelids, looping over and over like some cruel film reel. I kept hearing his voice telling me, "Don't wait up, babe. It's just the guys tonight." And every time I did, it felt like someone was driving a knife deeper into my chest. I wanted answers. But more than that, I wanted the truth he thought I'd never find. I started looking back. You know how they say hindsight is 20/20? Suddenly, everything made sense. The nights he came home smelling faintly of perfume I didn't wear. The business. Trips that weren't actually out of town, just out of reach. The way he stopped making plans for the future, dodging conversations about our anniversary trip or buying a house. It wasn't just emotional. It was tactical. Ethan was lying to me with the kind of precision that only comes from practice. He had rehearsed. He had built an entire system of deception. Text threads he'd delete, calls he'd take in the car, meetings that never existed. And the worst part? I bought into all of it. Every word, every fake smile, every excuse. I'd given 5 years of my life to this man. I supported him when he was broke and directionless, working 2 jobs while he figured things out. I sat through his late-night rants about ambition and purpose, believed in him when he didn't believe in himself. And this is how he repaid me? By sneaking around like a coward and treating me like a placeholder? I started digging, not out of obsession, but out of necessity. I needed to know the full truth, and what I found made my stomach turn. There were at least 2 other women. One from work, Angela, the same woman he claimed was just a friend, the one he insisted I was being insecure about. And the other? A barista named Skylar he had met at his gym. I found flirty texts, half-deleted Instagram DMs, even a hotel reservation under his name. He wasn't just cheating. He was cultivating relationships, juggling lives like a sick performance artist. It wasn't just betrayal anymore, it was full-scale manipulation. And still, somehow, he played the part of the perfect boyfriend. We had dinner last Thursday. He told me he loved me. We even discussed adopting a dog. It was all a performance. For him, I was just the safety net, the fallback, the one who would always be there. And then I realized the cruelest part of all, he never thought I'd find out. He counted on me loving him too much to question anything. He thought I was too loyal, too comfortable, too trusting to ever challenge his lies. That's when the pain transformed. It stopped being sorrow, and it became strategy. I wasn't going to crumble. I wasn't going to scream or beg or plead. No, I was going to do the one thing he never saw coming. I was going to rise, and I was going to make him feel it. Because this wasn't just about me anymore. This was about every lie he told without flinching, every time he dismissed my instincts, every time he made me feel crazy for simply sensing the truth. He had spent years weaving a web of deception. But he forgot one thing about webs. They don't just catch prey, they entangle predators too, eventually. And I was done being the one caught in the middle. I wasn't just hurt. I was activated. I wasn't just going to survive this. I was going to reclaim everything he tried to strip away from me, my power, my pride, my peace. He thought he had control, but he was about to learn what it feels like to lose everything, publicly. And it would all start with the confrontation he never saw coming. It would have been easier in some ways to walk away. Just pack up my things, block his number, and pretend like he never existed. Pretend like those 5 years weren't carved into the walls of my memory. Like I hadn't built my life around a man who was never really mine to begin with. But I couldn't. Because this, what he did, it wasn't a one-time mistake or a moment of weakness. This was a pattern, a deliberate, calculated betrayal. And if I let him walk away unscathed, he'd do it again, to the next woman, and maybe the one after that. And beyond that, it mattered because of what I had lost. I lost time. Years I'll never get back. Birthdays spent waiting for him to come home. Vacations canceled for work emergencies that now seemed laughably transparent. Nights I cried myself to sleep while he was out building his fantasy life behind my back. But it wasn't just about lost time. It was about how he made me doubt myself, how he slowly chipped away at my self-esteem with subtle manipulations. Quiet gaslighting and rehearsed affection. Every time I questioned his whereabouts or his tone, he'd turn it back on me. You're being paranoid. Why are you so insecure? I can't keep defending myself every time I go out. I started to believe I was the problem. And that was the deepest cut. Because I'm not naive. I'm not the clingy girlfriend or the overbearing partner. I'm smart. I'm self-aware. I've fought for every inch of respect I have. In my career, my friendships, my life. But with Ethan, I let my guard down. I let love blind me. And he used that vulnerability as a weapon. That's why this mattered. Because if I didn't stand up for myself now, I'd be allowing his version of me, the weak, desperate woman he tried to sculpt, to become my reality. No, I couldn't. Let that happen. Not just for me, but for every woman who's been made to feel small by someone who promised to protect her heart. And there were practical consequences, too. We lived together. We shared bills. Our finances were tied up in a lease we'd just renewed. He owed me money. Money I had loaned him when he lost his job and swore he'd pay back within a month. That was 8 months ago. I wasn't going to walk away and let him keep the furniture I bought, the apartment I maintained, the life I helped build. If he wanted out, fine. But he wasn't going to stroll away with my dignity and my investments like they were souvenirs from a relationship he never respected. More than anything, though, this mattered because I had stopped recognizing myself. I looked in the mirror one morning and barely saw the woman I used to be. I was quieter, more anxious, afraid to say the wrong thing, to trigger his cold spells. I dressed differently, laughed less, all because I was trying to hold on to something that was already gone. This wasn't just about a man cheating. This was about how betrayal morphs you into a version of yourself you never agreed to become. And I wanted her back, the woman who knew her worth, who didn't flinch at confrontation, who didn't shrink to fit into someone else's shadow. Ethan didn't just lie to me. He stole from me time, energy, confidence, peace. And I was going to take it all back, piece by piece. So no, I wasn't going to walk away quietly. He wanted to keep his perfect me. Little life, pretending everything was normal. But what he failed to realize was that I wasn't part of his narrative anymore. He had written the first half of the story. Now it was my turn to finish it. I didn't want revenge for the sake of being cruel. I wanted accountability. I wanted the truth laid bare for everyone to see, especially Ethan, who had grown too confident in his web of lies. He believed he was untouchable, that I would never dare to make a scene, let alone stand my ground. But he forgot one thing. When you push someone past their breaking point, the pieces they put back together aren't the same. I wasn't going to be quiet, and I wasn't going to be gentle. The plan came to me like clockwork the next morning. It started with one simple idea. If he had no shame lying to me in public, then he deserved the truth delivered in public too. I wasn't going to scream at him in private or send 100 texts begging for answers. No. I was going to confront him exactly where he made me invisible, in front of everyone. And that opportunity was fast approaching. Ethan's birthday was in 2 weeks. Every year, he threw a party at this swanky rooftop lounge downtown. It was always the same. Expensive drinks, forced smiles, a crowd of people half of whom didn't even know him that well. And he loved it. The attention, the praise, the performance. This year, I decided, the spotlight would shine a little differently. Step 1. Gather everything. I went through our shared devices, our cloud storage, and his old laptop that he forgot was still synced to our Google account. What I found was a goldmine. Screenshots of flirty messages, photos taken on dates with other women, one even showing him holding hands in public. He wasn't even trying to hide it. I saved it all. Step 2. Secure the receipts. I printed everything. I organized it neatly in a folder marked Happy Birthday. If he thought I was just the emotional girlfriend who'd cry and walk away, he was in for a surprise. I wasn't crying anymore. I was building a case, one even a jury of his closest friends couldn't ignore. Step 3. Prepare the delivery. I called Harper, my loyal, fearless best friend who had already proved she'd have my back no matter what. I told her the plan, and without hesitation, she said, "Let's make it unforgettable." She helped me draft a speech. Not dramatic, not unhinged, just the truth, clear, calm, undeniable. The kind of truth that cuts deeper than yelling ever could. Step 4. Bait the trap. I played along. I smiled when he talked about his party. I acted interested when he asked if I could help organize the guest list. I even agreed to wear the dress he bought me for the occasion, red, low-cut, the one he said made me look dangerously good. He had no idea just how dangerous I was about to become. I RSVP'd to the lounge under both our names. I told our friends I was looking forward to it. And every day leading up to the event, I kept the evidence folder tucked under my bed like a secret weapon. Every night, I rehearsed my words, not to humiliate, but to reveal, not to destroy, but to finally be heard. He thought he knew me, but he never met this version of me. The woman who had seen the worst and was ready to show everyone exactly who he really was. The goal wasn't chaos, it was clarity. When the truth lands in the middle of a lie, it doesn't need fireworks. It just needs silence, because in that silence, people finally hear what's real. Ethan built his life around lies and performance. I was going to end the show with the truth as the closing act. And the best part? He invited the whole audience, himself. The week leading up to Ethan's birthday party felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, staring down into the chaos below, and finally deciding to jump, not out of fear, but out of power. I wasn't spiraling anymore. I was climbing. I moved in silence. Every move I made had intention. I wasn't just gathering information. I was building my exit and crafting my statement. The first actionable step: secure my finances. Ethan owed me money, and while I knew confronting him publicly wouldn't legally force repayment, I also knew exposure could be motivation. I made copies of every transaction, every Venmo request, every message where he said, "I'll pay you back next Friday." I contacted our leasing office and began the process of removing myself from the lease, just in case things went south quickly. I also opened a new bank account and made sure all my direct deposits, auto payments, and online purchases were completely separated from anything with his name on it. Second step: protect my space. I started slowly moving my things out of the apartment. Not dramatically, just a few boxes at a time. Sentimental items, important documents, jewelry. I told Ethan I was decluttering. He barely noticed. I made arrangements to stay with Harper the night after the party. I wasn't going to come home to him. That part of my life was over. Third, double-check the evidence. I wanted to make sure everything I presented was bulletproof. No gray areas, no room for him to spin it. I printed screenshots of the messages where he flirted with Angela, the photo of him at brunch with Skylar, time-stamped, location tagged, and his hotel confirmation email, complete with the check-in. Date that aligned with the night he said he was at his brother's place. The details were surgical. I also made digital backups, a Google Drive folder shared with Harper, a thumb drive in my purse, even a hidden email draft with every photo attached. If anything happened to my phone or computer, the evidence would still be out there. Fourth, manage my emotions. This one was harder. Every day I fluctuated between rage and heartbreak. One second I wanted to burn it all down. The next I missed the way he used to kiss my forehead when he thought I was asleep. But I reminded myself, he chose this. He chose lies. He chose disrespect. I was simply choosing truth. I journaled. I meditated. I screamed into a pillow more times than I can count. I allowed myself to grieve what I thought we had, but I didn't let that grief stop me. Fifth, prepare the moment. Harper helped me design a slideshow. Yes, a literal presentation. Nothing too long, just a few curated images and text snippets on a tablet. Not to broadcast on a screen. I wasn't out to ruin anyone else's night. But something I could pull up and show if he dared to deny what I was about to say. I printed out one final copy of everything and sealed it in a sleek envelope marked, "For Ethan, happy birthday." I also wrote a short statement, not a speech, just a few lines, not angry, not dramatic, just final. I practiced reading it in the mirror. I practiced saying it with composure, with dignity, with power. I wanted him to feel the weight of what he lost, but more importantly, I wanted him to see that I had found myself again. Last step: dress for the occasion. I wore the red dress. But this time, it wasn't for him. It was for me. It was armor. It was a symbol of everything he tried to bury: the confidence, the beauty, the fire. I curled my hair, did my makeup, looked myself in the mirror and whispered, "Let's end this." I walked into that party not as Ethan's girlfriend, but as a woman on a mission. A woman who was no longer scared. A woman who was ready to speak. The rooftop was already buzzing when I arrived. Glittering lights reflected off champagne glasses, and a DJ played just loud enough to make conversation feel like a secret. Ethan stood at the center, holding court like the king of nothing, laughing, shaking hands, sipping his drink like he hadn't spent the last 6 months living a lie. He saw me and grinned. "There she is," he said, pulling me into a side hug. "You look incredible." I smiled, cool and sharp. "Thank you. You ready for your gift?" He laughed, oblivious. "You didn't have to get me anything." "Oh, but I did. I said, handing him the envelope. He opened it casually at first. The smirk faded within seconds. His eyes darted across the page, then flicked up to meet mine. "What is this?" he asked, voice low. "Receipts," I said. "Photos. Messages. Proof. Everything you've been hiding while pretending to be someone you're not." I felt a hush ripple through the small group standing nearby. Harper stood to my right, arms crossed, a look of grim satisfaction on her face. "You're doing this here?" he hissed. I didn't flinch. "You told me you were out with friends that night. But you were with her, at the same restaurant where we celebrated our anniversary the year before. You told me I was crazy, jealous, insecure. But I wasn't any of those things, Ethan. I was right." He tried to laugh it off, scanning the crowd, playing it cool. "She's clearly emotional, sorry guys." "Don't," I cut in, louder now. "Don't reduce me to that. Not tonight. Not after everything." I reached into my purse and pulled out the tablet. A few quick swipes, and I held up the screen for him, and anyone else around, to see. There he was, arm around a girl I'd never met, time-stamped, just days ago. Another swipe, and there was the hotel booking. One more, and the message thread where he told Skylar she was the only one who really understands him. The silence grew thicker. People were watching now. Friends, colleagues, acquaintances who'd heard stories about us and were now seeing the truth laid bare. "Ethan," I said calmly, "you didn't just cheat. You manipulated. You gaslit. You used me for stability while you chased distractions behind my back. And I stayed silent for too long, thinking I needed to protect something that wasn't real." He looked pale, cornered. His mask was cracking. "I'm not here to scream," I continued. "I'm not here to fight. I'm here to say, I know who you are now. And everyone else does, too." I handed the tablet to Harper, who promptly turned and walked it over to his cousin, one of the people who'd vouched for his busy work schedule. Eyes widened. Whispers passed like wildfire. Ethan opened his mouth but said nothing. And that's when I walked away. Not stormed, not ran, just walked. Out the door, down the elevator, into the night. I left him there, drowning, in the consequences of his own lies. Let him explain it all. Let him spin it however he wanted. It didn't matter anymore. The damage was done, and it was his damage, not mine. The next morning, I blocked his number. I texted the leasing office to confirm I'd vacated the apartment. I sent him one last email with a summary of what he owed me financially, along with copies of the evidence. No threats, no emotions, just facts. Harper made pancakes. We laughed. We watched rom-coms. We poured wine at 2 p.m. and toasted to freedom. It wasn't just about catching a cheater. It was about reclaiming my power. Ethan thought he could rewrite our story with lies. But in the end, I wrote the final chapter. And it was the truth that gave me peace. Because karma doesn't need fire to burn. Sometimes, it only takes a spotlight and the courage to flip the switch.